I joked with Tom this morning that it was a week and that I didn't have anything for him. He's very accustomed to me throwing things at him relatively last minute, whether it be slides for the sermon or a video or something like that. And he said, well, good, we can get out of here 15 minutes earlier. I pray heaven is like rain on a tin roof, washing away my sorrows. And may I add to that, as I think Rachel's story did, soaking in to all of my broken places, healing, mending, making me whole. As we heard in the children's message, John's gospel is unique. The other gospels say, love God and love others as you love yourself. And that's good, don't get me wrong. But John is distinctively talking to this motley crew of followers called the disciples. Think about how incredibly diverse they were. You had hard labor. You had high and lofty Pharisees, and you had tax collectors, businessmen. You had fishermen. You had ones who had persecuted the church, persecuted the Christians. You had a very diverse group of people. How do you think their meetings went? Do you think they agreed about everything? Do you think they had some disagreements a little bit? Do you think maybe one of them didn't use the right oils and smelled a little bit in one of those rooms with no air circulation? When they showered, or they didn't even shower, they bathed once a week. Do you think they got on each other's nerves a little bit? I think about a road trip. Let's say from Pittsburgh to Omaha, Nebraska, a good 15, 16 hours away. And I'm thinking not in our day and age when we have air conditioning and reclining seats and everyone is listening to their own or watching their own thing. I mean, do you remember in minivans when they all had those screens up? And the whole family would watch. I thought that was kind of cool. Well, now they don't even make those anymore because everyone has their own tablet, their own phone. And there's you see it, right? So in the days before we had all of that, did you ever go on one of those long, long road trips where you had to roll down the window because it was getting too hot inside? When you're in between places and you turn the radio and there's no station. Do you remember getting on each other's nerves because you were hungry? Or when you got that peanut butter and jelly sandwich, it was soggy as can be because you tried to wait for another stop and to get gas. And I mean, it's so convenient nowadays. And that's what we said. Oh, I want my mommy. Right? You see, I am convinced that it's through the struggles, through the heartaches, through the pains, that our faith is truly deepened, is truly widened, becomes more and more like God's. In John's gospel, he says, abide in me. Rest in me. Allow me to soak it in. You see, the love that we're called to have is, it's not like a steak that you can choose to dip in whatever sauce you want or not to dip in whatever sauce you want. It's like a steak that needs to marinate. It needs to soak in. It needs to get into the innermost parts. And we have so many defense mechanisms built up, that so many layers built up, that it's hard to get in. So it's not a switch that we can turn on and off. It's a light that needs to always be on. It needs to become a part of you. It needs to become a part of me. It can't even be just on Sunday mornings. It can't even be as we have historically done, right? For breakfast, we say a prayer. For lunch, we say a prayer. For dinner, we say a prayer. It needs to be abiding, resting, living in God's love, not every hour of every day, every minute of every day. And I think those hard times, I think those struggles push us in those directions. If you haven't been to a Circle of Friends concerts these last 2 nights, I strongly encourage you to go next week. I think Saturday, David, is Saturday the Without Reservations fundraiser. So please go to the Saturday one, free little plug there, right? But I pray to God that you go. You see, I am privileged to know a lot of the stories of a lot of the people up there singing. I'm privileged to know the tragedies that they have endured time and time again. I'm privileged to know how they have been almost forced to abide in God's love. And that comes through in this concert. You know what? I'm sorry. Just like Calvin doesn't play music, they pray music. I'm going to say that a Circle of Friends don't play music. They pray music. So I'm privileged to know a lot of those stories and how each one of them abide in God's love in different ways. But they all abide in God's love. And it's a very, very diverse group, sort of like the disciples. I mean, you've got some real Bible thumpers in that group. And you've got some people, you know, we're known as the liberals in town. We're really not. We're kind of moderate when you look at across the denomination. But in this town, we're the crazy, screaming liberals. There are people in a Circle of Friends who are more liberal than we are, if you can believe that. And yet, they love each other so profoundly and so deeply. So part of what I'm saying is it's not a conservative liberal thing. It's not a Lutheran, Methodist, Presbyterian, non-denominational thing. It's not even you have to suffer your way into this. We all get there in different ways, but the important thing is that we allow it to soak in. We abide in God's love so that it permeates everything, so it heals our brokenness, so that it makes that smile, that gesture, that song all that much more genuine and authentic. The problem with tearing this up is I had some things on here now that I want to say. I'll probably print it in between services. I'm giving you these commands that you might love one another. That your love might be like Christ's love. A love that would go the distance. A love that doesn't judge. A love that accepts you for who you are and embraces it. Your love is the calling card of the church. Our love for one another says more to everyone outside of these walls than any slogan, than any bulletin cover, than any sign can ever say. That's why Christ is saying to this motley crew, this diverse group of men and women. There was as many women there. We know this almost for certain. There was many women there, probably more. This motley crew to have such love that more than 2,000 years later, it's literally in every corner of the world. And you're literally sitting here right now, worshiping that same God and abiding in his love. This part. Friends, abide in God's love. Rest in God's love. Allow it to soak into your innermost parts. Allow it to heal all that has been broken, so that 2,000 years from now, others might abide in that same love. Amen? Amen. Amen.